I gave Unreal Engine's new AI over 400,000 tokens, a day and a half, a folder full of assets, and one simple job. Make me a video game. Not write me one function, not place one cube, not some cute tech demo for Twitter. I want to know what happens if a normal person opens Unreal, connects the new AI tools, and says, make me something playable. And the answer is a little weird because at first it kind of feels like magic. You can see it building buildings right in front of you. But then the cracks start to show. It's very overconfident for something that doesn't refactor a simple blueprint and puts trees in the sky. So the first thing I asked it to do was build me a level. I gave it access to some meshes and pretty simple directions. Make me an abandoned urban city where nature is taking over. And honestly, after a few prompts and waiting, it did better than I expected. It placed buildings, it scattered trees, it got the general vibe right. It understood the idea of a decaying city being swallowed by a forest. Now, would I ship this? Absolutely not. There were trees floating. Some buildings had one-sided materials so you could literally see through them. A lot of the world still felt empty. Some assets didn't sit correctly on the ground. It looked like a level made by something that understood the concept of a ruined city, but didn't quite grasp the craftsmanship needed to make one. But for prototyping, this is useful. If you're blocking out or testing an idea and just trying to get something on the screen fast, I can see the value immediately. This is the part of AI in game development that I think most of us are actually okay with. It can give me 1,000 trees or scatter rubble across the ground. It can put something down quickly that way I can get an idea if it's worth sinking hours into. But it's not going to replace a level designer, at least not yet. It's simply giving you a messy first pass. But games are more than just a level, they need systems. So next I asked it to make me a third-person character with WASD movement. And this is where the cracks really started showing. I gave it a character mesh and animations just enough so it had something to work with. I wasn't asking it to make some insane combat system, I just wanted basic third-person movement. And it did try. It created the blueprints and the input actions, and it even hooked things up in the event graph. But it kept struggling with the actual input setup. Instead of using the enhanced input system that we all use today with correct mapping context, it kept making individual input actions and wiring them up in a way that technically looked like progress, but wasn't actually the correct structure. And this is important because this is where things started to really become interesting. I knew it was wrong and I could have went in and fixed it immediately. It needed to correct the input mapping context. But the point of this experiment was to view this from somebody that is a hobbyist, not an Unreal developer who probably wouldn't use this for this anyways and would just make it themselves. So I tried to guide it like a normal person would. So instead of saying something like fix the input mapping context and use the enhanced input system correctly, I mainly said, hey, movement isn't working and you need to understand input mapping before moving forward. And eventually, after a few steps, it did get closer. It created the correct input actions and it put the correct logic inside the event graph. But it still could not figure out the input mapping context. So I went ahead and did it for that so we could move forward. Technically, yes, it did make character movement, but not without some help and in a very messy way. And that's the part of this that scares me more than an actual failure. It didn't clean up after itself very well. It made bad nodes, then it made better nodes, but it left the bad nodes sitting around. Not all of them, but some of them. So the blueprint becomes this growing pile of almost correct logic stacked on top of previously wrong attempts. And if you've used AI for code, you've probably seen this exact thing before. It doesn't always refactor, it doesn't always delete the bad idea, it just adds a new idea on top. That might work for a tiny test, but in a real project, that's how you slowly create a house made of cards. Next, I wanted to see how far I could go with gameplay, so I asked it to add health, enemies, and an enemy spawner. And this part is actually pretty impressive. It gave my character health, it created enemies, it gave the enemies health, and it made them attack. It even added a print string on the screen showing when I'm taking damage and how much I'm taking. That was actually pretty cool. And to be fair, this is the kind of thing where AI does feel useful. Basic gameplay mechanics, simple damage logic, prototyping enemies, or different meshes. Stuff that gets you from a blank project to something is happening way faster. And right now there are a ton of YouTube videos going out showing just that. Small isolated incidents where it does something really well. But then you open the blueprints and once again the results were better than it reads. The event graphs were ugly and the logic was pretty hard to follow. Things were not organized in a way I would want for a long-term project, and that became the pattern of the whole experiment. Claude was decent at making something happen, it was not good at making something that is maintainable long term. And that distinction matters because it's very easy to show off an isolated feature such as movement or making enemies or a UI piece, but that's not really the hard part. The hard part is making all those things work together without the project collapsing the second you try to expand it. For the final test, I asked it to make a UI, add a health bar to the player, show the enemy's health, and attach a weapon to the player's character. And at this point, it started working through the task, and then I hit the token limit again. This was the third time, but after a day and a half, multiple token limits, repeat fixes, broken structure, messy blueprints, and me still needing to step in to make basic movement actually work correctly, the answer became pretty obvious. No. As of right now, Unreal Engine's AI is not ready to make a game for you. At least not in the way people imagine. So if you're a player and you're worried about every single game being made with AI, you're in the same position you were yesterday. And if you're a young developer or a hobbyist thinking this means you can skip learning Unreal altogether, that's not true either. This tool can help you. It can prototype, it can place assets, it can generate a messy first pass, it can get you unstuck sometimes when you're not sure what to do next. But it still needs someone in the chair that knows when it is wrong, and that is the real takeaway. The AI did not fail because it made nothing, it failed because it made enough to look convincing, and that is way more dangerous for beginners, because if you don't know Unreal, you might see the character moving and think, great, it works, but if you do know Unreal, you open the blueprint and go, oh no, because now you don't just have to build the game, you have to clean up what the AI built first, and that might be the current state of AI in game development. It's not useless, but it's also not magic. It's a very powerful prototyping tool that'll help you give vision to your ideas faster than ever. And honestly, that is still valuable. But the second you move from make something appear on the screen to make something solid, scalable, editable, and shippable, the human still matters a lot. Maybe that changes in 6 months. Maybe in a year from now, this video looks stupid. That is completely possible. These tools are moving fast, and Unreal is clearly pointed toward a future where AI agents are more directly connected to the editor. But today AI cannot make a full game, and I think we can all agree that's a good thing. Real quick, guys, I just wanted to say thank you for rocking with me to the end of this one. I actually used a script this time instead of just having bullet points and talking to the camera. I thought it would organize my thoughts a little better and more clear for you guys. Let me know what you think, if you like this style better or my normal style better, or, whatever you want to do. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.